Hello everyone, it's the 1st of April 2025. Apparently that is the beginning of the new year, according to information I've seen recently. Happy New Year if that's the case. But I'm Gary Waterman, I'm a former UK police constable, and since 2022 I've acquired irrefutable, verifiable evidence of decades-long international government fraud that is now irrefutably connected to the Satanic cults. And of course this means the removal potentially of moral conscience and these people just focusing on themselves whilst they exploit and victimize billions of people around the world. Now, what I'm going to show you now is a document that I've rushed together today because over the last few days I've acquired information I think you need to know about very quickly. So I haven't actually highlighted sections within the document, but hopefully you'll still get the idea of it. Now, please do not panic. Do not worry. Okay, I am not worried because I know whatever happens in this, I'm going to be okay. I'm trying to safeguard the children and humanity and safeguard the financial system to ensure that we bring about a new earth. So I know whatever happens, I'm going to be okay. But the information I've got does suggest that these people may well be thinking about very sinister attacks against humanity, fitting in with falsified biblical prophecies and them hiding out in their tunnel systems. But I have information, and I do believe that those tunnel systems will be flooded, causing their demise. That's not what I want. Okay, I want them and everybody else to be saved through the truth and through the collective, collaborative effort of creating a new earth of truth, transparency and trust and equality and fairness for everybody. Now, there's several things that could be happening moving forward as these people are cornered. And it does suggest they are biding their time for something. They've gone completely silent. They're not responding to the irrefutable evidence. So it does suggest that they're biding their time. Now, I urge you all, if you're not going to disable the threat from the directed energy in the cell towers by disabling it now, then get away from it as far as you can over the next few days, just in case. I'm not suggesting that anything will definitely happen. However, these people are backed into a corner. They're unpredictable. They're completely irrational. And there's a lot of substance abuse that I think has been causing that, but as well as the connection to the satanic cults as well, the removal of their rationality. They're not thinking rationally in what they're doing at all. And I do hope, part of me hopes and thinks that maybe this is a satanic deception against humanity, but we can't rely on that. All right, because of the silence and because of all of the evidence. And at the very basis of this, we, without a shadow of a doubt, have a criminal financial system in place that's now linked to the satanic cults. And of course, that can't continue. You can't have a criminal financial system that exploits and victimizes billions. So watch this information. I'm also going to be producing, if I can get it out, very important evidence, irrefutably linking the satanic church to this and the crimes that humanity have been suffering under these people. Thanks very much. Most of the evidence that I'm showing you can be verified and corroborated through the Companies House research or other internet-based resources. Please verify to see that it's true. Don't just take my word for this, okay? Some of it you can't verify, such as the screenshots I'm going to show you here initially. Now, several months ago, I was convinced by others, including one of the people in this group, to open up a Telegram account. I was told that it is the most secure site for sharing information, and also that it would be good for bringing people together in relation to this international corruption. And little did I know at that point, that on the Companies House record, it actually linked to Vistra, one of the most important companies in the fraud, because it ties to Jordan's, which we're going to come to in a minute. So, of course, that means it'll be heavily infiltrated and being monitored by the international intelligence agencies which are behind this international fraud. So one of the people on the left here is Martin Dewis. And Martin Dewis links to the rapid response teams who are supposedly going around and helping unlawfully evicted victims. But there's significant evidence suggesting they're actually part of the distraction, misinformation, disinformation and deception, and potentially there to silence the truth in all of this, which is the Companies House fraud. There's a lot of evidence now to support this, and I've got another document that will be released soon to confirm more of that. But back on the 21st of April, I think it was 2024, Martin tried to get me to contact the Defense Attaché Office of the Embassy of the United States of America. Now, more recently, as I've exposed the rapid response teams with the evidence, Martin and his wife Petra have been involved with others in targeting me with comments, trying to undermine the evidence, criticise me, along with Bannerman, Mikey P, and others. Some comments from some of the individuals on those groups have been insulting, abusive, and they have been making threats to steal my home, threats to steal the van, etc. So a report has previously been made to the police, which I've got, like I say, another document in relation to that. But Martin was trying to get me to contact the Defence Attaché office. You can see an email there in relation to it, and we're going to come to that later. Michelle on the group, you can see here, sent lots and lots of information trying to get me to believe in Donald Trump and Pascal Najadi and Space Force. Okay, now when I found evidence linking them all to it and exposing that and putting it on the group, Michelle blocked me from the group. And here's some information. You can see there Donald Trump from this group. And also Pascal Najadi here. So the research in relation to Pascal Najadi states that Pascal Najadi was born in 1967. That in itself is very important. 1967 is the year after the Church of Satan was founded. And 1967 is when the London Law Agency, a very important company in the international government fraud, was created and is now in the process of dissolving. Reading on, it says he is a retired Swiss investment banker and author and the son of Hussein Najadi. Currently works as a peace and Bitcoin activist. He's best known for producing movies like Grounding, The Last Days of Swiss Air. He also produced Rebel News, 2015, The National Citizens Inquiry. You can see some other information further down here linking to Switzerland. And Switzerland's incredibly important in this international government fraud. It's where the World Economic Forum is based, holds their meetings every year. It's a neutral country. It's also where CERN Hadron Collider with 3 sixes twisted round into its emblem is located, and the World Health Organization, among others. So you can see here Najadi linking in to Switzerland. And it says here, from 1993 until 2003, Najadi served as a management board member of the Dresdner Bank, London, and was in charge of capital markets business covering Central Europe, Central Asia, the Russian Federation, which is important because what we're seeing is an international collaborative deception. Russia is involved 100% with America, with the UK, with the Flemings, with the royal family, with Ukraine. International collaborative deception to exploit and victimize billions of people. And it appears as though they're all linked to a satanic cult. But you can also see a mention of Middle East. Now that's becoming very relevant, which we're going to come to later in relation to Iran. Reading on, it says, after his father Hussein was assassinated in Kuala Lumpur in 2015, he claimed the Malaysian government and president covered his father's murder. In 2023, as I'm starting to really expose the fraud, realizing how big it is, Najadi filed a civil case against Pfizer in New York, alleging harm from the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine. I suspect that is all an international deception and a false flag to the real threat from this satanic cult and directed energy and potentially even bigger attacks by them. And I've got loads of evidence in relation to that. Reading on, it says on October the 27th of 2023, the day before my birthday, he was appointed ambassador at large, and his new role as the official strategic advisor to the president of the so-called state of Savoy, don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, which has no formal legal existence. So let's have a look at Pascal Najadi on the company's house records. And you can see he immediately links to Commerce Bank Finance. I'm reading down their previous company names according to the register. The first one was Kleinvort Benson. Okay, Benson, we're going to come to that. Could be very important in a minute. But that featured in my latest evidence and research in relation to Santander after going into the bank and exposing them in relation to the fraud. Since I've been in there, according to the loads of articles, loads of banks are now suddenly closing. And that's because they are fully exposed, I suspect. Kleinvort Benson, the research that I showed also shows that they are connected to cable and wireless. So again, a very significant link to the directed energy threat. I've already researched cable and wireless, which links to BT, British Telecom, and they're a criminal, fraudulent organisation. Kleinvort Benson changed its name. You can see, look, they just literally removed the comma. This is how important it is. You can just see the comma at the bottom there, and then they removed the comma, and they changed it again in 2001. Okay, the year of the World Trade Center disaster. So according to this, its first name was Kleinvort Benson Limited at the bottom there. Well, that's a lie. This is a name on their incorporation document with that date, Kleinvort Sons and Co. It's a criminal, fraudulent organisation by the international governments. Within the company, Commerzbank James Wall links to Dresdner Kleinvort Derivative Investments Limited. And on the incorporation document for that company, I'm just having a look at the dates. You can see Jordan's Limited. I've already mentioned that earlier. If you go and research that, it's now trading as Vistra Limited. That was started in 1965. It's probably the most important criminal front company in the fraud and was started the year before the foundation of the Church of Satan in 1966. And it's a criminal, fraudulent entity company because the incorporation document has a completely different name that's never been registered. So remember, earlier, Martin had mentioned the defense attaché officer. And this was research I did a long time ago, actually, months ago, and it's only just coming about now, which is due to what I'm going to show you in a minute. And it links to Gregory Leland being the defense attaché at the American Embassy in London. So here's the research that I did in relation to Greg Leland on the right. And you can see here, licenses and certification, security corporation officer, issued in May 2022. Okay, that's as I'm making inquiries within my company. I suspect he was set up, specifically put in place as they knew the exposure was happening. You can also see the link there, Joint Attaché Officer, Defense Intelligence Agency. Bottom left there, a connection to the Vienna Foundation, so a link to Europe and to Austria. Further down, you can see his experience. He was a teen counsellor for Boys and Girls Clubs of America and also a head coach for the Youth Basketball Coaches Association. Remember, we've got a massive link to international child trafficking and very serious crimes against children in relation to all of this fraud. On the left there, you can see some pictures on his LinkedIn of military personnel. And on the right, we're going to look at this picture a few times, actually, because it's quite a good one. Sorry, let's just see if I can get rid of these. Okay. And it says, Captain Gregory Leland, USN Captain Gregory Leland, hails from Massachusetts and received his commission through Office Candidate School and designated as a naval aviator. So let's have a look at this image because we're going to look at this a bit more in a minute. It becomes very relevant. And according to the research, here's Gregory Leland Mead comes up when you search his name on Companies House. And on the incorporation document, you can see the formationscompany.com. And that company had already previously featured, this is just showing some of my previous research, linking into Bournemouth Court. It also links to Stanley Davis. Now, Bournemouth, remember, is where this all started for me. It's where Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited was based, or is still based, and where I acquired the forged bank documents, the Lloyds Bank documents. So there's now a connection to Bournemouth very quickly. On the right, Dr. Michael Robinson links to, just as one example, the Erpingham Arms Limited. And on the Erpingham Arms Limited company, you have A1 Company Services Limited. If you search Finchley Road fraud, you will see that that exact company is mentioned as being linked to international government fraud, dictatorships around the world, mafia and corrupt politicians. And this was as a result of Gordon Bowden's initial evidence linking to an address of 788 to 790 Finchley Road. The same director also links to CNE International Limited. And on that company incorporation document, you have at UK PLC Client Directors Limited. Now that links directly to Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited. On the incorporation document for Property Solutions Southern Limited. If you go and look at Exmoor Manor Freehold Limited, go on the people record, click on that company, look in there, and you will see on its incorporation document in the filing history that exactly the same company. Now, Paul Mallory was the person in charge of that company managing the building when I was removed as a director. You can see here Paul Mallory just showing the previous research. It also connects to Bournemouth, Christchurch and Poole Council via the research. Okay, and back into the legal system. So, just to summarise what we've just shown back there. So months and months and months ago, I was directed towards Telegram. I was being fed information to try and get me to believe in Donald Trump, in Pascal Najadi and Space Force, and the supposed operations going on in the background to remove the international child trafficking and secure a safeguarded financial system to prevent it continuing. It is all a deception. The evidence is overwhelming that they want it to continue, and that the child trafficking is a massive part of what we're seeing. It then led to information regarding Greg Leland, okay, that we're going to come to, because this is very important in a minute, that we're going to come to on what has happened more recently. Now, some of you may or may not be aware, so these screenshots were taken yesterday. So 6 days ago, many articles on the internet stated that EU citizens have been told to stockpile 72 hours worth of food. Okay, and you can see on the bottom left there, 450 million people told to stockpile. And it's multiple mainstream internet-based media companies. Now, this fits with 3 days of darkness as written in the scripture. So it is appearing as though they're going to try and trigger falsified biblical events, okay, which means it is not our creator. It is people believing they are gods and able to create events that they should not be, okay. And it is linked, remember, overwhelmingly to a satanic church or satanic cult, and we're going to look at that a little bit more now. So remember, that was about 6 days ago. The day after, roughly, on the 30th of March, I submitted a police report to the Metropolitan Police. So here's some screenshots just taken from my report. And within there, I mentioned the now overwhelming evidence in relation to the link to the Satanic Church. And you can see here, right in the middle there, a specific company, the Satanic Temple. The Satanic Temple United Kingdom Limited is mentioned with the company number 146688882. Now, evidence from that I'm going to show separately, but it's overwhelmingly now linking that to Exmoor Manor, to all of the fraud that I've been exposing, now tying into a satanic cult. So that was reported to the Metropolitan Police, and the reference number is at the bottom here. ROC 6919250155IR01. So that was submitted on the 30th, the day after those articles came out about the 72 hours of stockpiling. Yesterday, these are articles taken, and Trump is escalating a risk of a conflict with Iran. Okay, so he was trying to escalate a risk of conflict with Israel, and now he's trying to escalate it, it appears, with Iran. And you can see various news articles that I screenshot from yesterday. Now, I suspect we have well, it's overwhelming that we have a satanic cult that Donald Trump is linked to, linking to the Flemings, linking to the royal family, to Vladimir Putin, and even, I suspect, the supreme leader of Iran. And this is an article that I found from the 12th of September 2022. Now, this is the same year, remember, that I'm exposing the fraud via the company's house records and via this company I was part of. And this article is from 2 weeks after the Queen died, supposedly died, okay? And you can see here it's an article saying that King Charles had a one-day visit to Iran in 2004. And that article came out 12th of September 2022. Interesting. Now, that visit, if it's true, was obviously 3 years after the World Trade Center disaster. And no coincidence, notice it mentions the 33-year rule by this person in Iran. And of course, if you maybe you're not aware that the number 33 is very important to the Freemasons. So, remember that intelligence attaché officer. Then yesterday I received this email, or the day before. I think it's day before. Oh, it's yesterday. Good news coming from President Trump on April the 2nd, 2025. So tomorrow. And you can see, this is important to notice. And there's lots of other emails. I'm not going to show all of them, of course. But many Canadian email addresses. You can see this, Action for Canada. Okay, there's a few more Canadian ones below. From Greg Fearstay. And this is an image of Greg on the email. Now, I suspect that is the same person, Greg Leland, on the research that I previously did, but using a different name. But this will be a more recent photograph. The other photograph on my original research. Now, if that's the same person, then obviously with a different name, then that's very important because it suggests, again, deception in relation to everything that's being said. Now, this email had a video on it. And it was in relation to Donald Trump talking about, you can see the date there, 31st of March, talking about the Jazara, I think it's called, financial system, the quantum financial system, and talking about Donald Trump's been involved in ensuring that the international child trafficking is going to stop and that we're going to get all of the information. I suspect it's a massive international collaborative deception. I don't believe it's true at all, and I actually think that they're going to use these events, now they're backed into a corner, to fit falsified biblical prophecies, as I've said, to fit their narrative in relation to all of this. Now, I know nothing's being done because yesterday I took a screenshot of this, or the day before, and since I've been exposing the evidence, I've been sending it all on WhatsApp to people within my company, or the company I was part of, including Deborah Fleming, okay, who was the one that initiated my removal. And on the 10th of March, you can see the date at the top there, they changed the timer on the WhatsApp group so that the evidence will disappear after 90 days. So that shows that they are still very much in a position of doing whatever it is they do. I've also had many messages on my videos from Anthony Roberts, who was the person that resigned when I wanted to look at the bank documents for Export Manor Freehold Limited whilst I was a director. Deborah Fleming initiated my removal, came in as a director, brought Anthony Roberts back in as a director and removed me and filed the forged bank documents. That is what the evidence suggests. So they're very much still in play. Nothing is being done. They should be the first people that should be arrested and investigated in relation to this fraud, because they are very seriously implicated. The evidence is overwhelming to show that they are linked in significant ways to this international fraud. And I had no other message. I haven't had any other messages from them. But of course, this shows that they are receiving and watching the messages. So other emails from Greg. this guy Greg. On the left, I've had various other ones. The last one, I believe, was on, you can see on the 9th of October. Nothing else since, which suggests my police report to the Metropolitan Police has triggered another response from them. And some of the previous emails, you can see one here, some exchanges between other people on the group. USA warns Iran, false Armageddon, and it mentions the Bible, and the Red Heifer rehearsal yesterday in Jerusalem. So this is dated the 9th of August. Earthquakes keep popping off. If Trump loses election, does that mean he is not the Antichrist? So you can see they're talking about the biblical prophecies, and in 2022 they moved the red heifers, according to the research, from Texas to Israel in preparation for potential sacrifice, to tie in with falsified, actually satanic biblical prophecies that are not of our Creator, not of moral conscience, and to potentially lead to a satanic attack against humanity to tie in with it. And I've recently reported actually that the Passover in April is a very important event, and they may try and tie events in to that. But obviously we're looking at something potentially tomorrow on the 2nd of April. Other emails between other people in the group talks about the emergency broadcast system. You can just see on the left here. Now, I know that's a real thing, because when my wife and I were together, we were driving along a few months ago, and my wife was driving, and suddenly my phone started broadcasting a message. There was no apps open, and it was telling us to stockpile on food and water for, I can't remember, for a period of time, because there's going to be a shutdown of power, and they're then going to show all of the truth as to what has been happening with the international child trafficking. It's all a collaborative deception. I didn't realise at the time how implicated my wife's family was. This explains my wife was not surprised at all, and in fact looked very uneasy and nervous when I was sat there gobsmacked that this message was coming out for about 15 minutes from my phone. I contacted people around the country. Nobody else had this message. So I know that this is something they're certainly planning as part of their deception against humanity. Here's another email. This is all the ones between the Greg guy and some others. It says Donald Trump's paedophilia and incest with his daughter Ivana Trump, I think that is. Donald Trump raped Ivana thousands of times when she was a young girl. Proof Trump is a paedophile and Satanist. Okay, now I didn't write that. Okay, I'm not saying that's true. But he's certainly linked to international child trafficking via the research. And somebody put, are you smoking crack? Now, the reason I'm showing you all of this is because it's all relevant to the collaborative international deception by this satanic cult. Now, the crack comment I find quite interesting, because lots of evidence suggests international drug trafficking is linked to this, and our international governments, most of them are probably, unfortunately, on cocaine, and therefore we have a group of not only satanic individuals, but they're completely irrational because they're taking all of these substances. And a guy recently told me that he was in the white number 10, and saw the politicians taking cocaine when he worked there. So another recent email from Gregory. Greg says Alliance military forces global arrests starting October the 24th. So that was, October. All the USA aircraft carriers and their battlegrounds are on the oceans around the world. By the end of the month, we should all be contacted about the new quantum financial system, banking system here in Vancouver. Okay, it's important. So he's claiming he's in Canada. Supposed to be COVID inquiry downtown for 3 days starting on October the 17th. The COVID inquiry is all a deception, I believe. Reading on, it says, first I have to find out where it is. Most people like us meet outside and hear speakers who know more. So this was all being fed to me, I believe, as part of the deception. Now, this person, I suspect, could be the same person under a third name, Eric Benson. Remember, we had Kleinvort Benson companies earlier. Okay, as well. Notice the Canadian Mounties in the background? Now, I think that's the same person, but with an older, being an older photograph. Here's the one from the recent email. And here's the one from my initial research. Now, if it's the same person using 3 different names, that's obviously very important. And the research in relation to Eric Benson on Wikipedia, sorry, not Wikipedia, LinkedIn, links to CYM Limited, a company that features in the adrenochrome research, the blood taken from poor children. You can see at the bottom it says at CYM Limited, I specialise in integrating advanced chemical solutions with cutting edge electrical engineering products. He's also a counterintelligence officer, according to this, in relation to Canada for the Canadian Security Intelligence Services from March 1995. You can see that to the present year. Now, 1995 is very important because it's when the Hackluit company was created. The Hackluit advisory company that I've already shown in my evidence that links to the intelligence services, but it connects to the Russian government, makes a link very quickly to the Flemings, to Ukraine, to the royal family, to international government fraud against humanity. Now, this person, Eric Benson, links to Colin Suderman. And Colin Suderman was somebody who was using the name of Reynard Wilson previously, who interviewed me, tried to undermine my evidence, and then came on a live stream as Reynard Wilson, along with Anthony Roberts, the chairman of Exporn Manor Freehold Limited, who has resigned, and they had a tag team trying to undermine my evidence. I then found out he had an alias name of Colin Suderman. And the LinkedIn research in relation to Colin Suderman connects to, you can just about see at the top there, community liaison for Ericsson from February 2024 until present, when this screenshot was taken in the London area. Just going back to the first page a bit here, you mentioned, it says lead community, under his name there, lead community manager for 6G development. That's directed energy in relation to mobile communications. So Ericsson, but also CYM Limited. Again, you can just see it underneath. And it says, I lead a division that aims to extract the purest biocompatible nanolipids from our state-of-the-art extraction facility. And the research in relation to the adrenochrome and CYM shows a document that links it to children's abuse, murder, and torture. Below, you can see he was also a disinformation propagation officer, probably pronouncing that wrong, for the British Army from 2016 until July 2020, when the outbreak was really happening and the vaccines were being distributed. Below, you can also see from March 2012, which is the year of the God particle,